Well, remember, you can use the hashtag Business Today, and my Twitter handle is at @JoyDorinBira. Let us know what you think about this. But speaking of women in extractives, women are underrepresented when it comes to the fields of sciences, and this, of course, includes extractives, mining, energy, also alternative sources of energy, and those careers that pertain to renewable or clean renewable energy. And so to help us understand why, we are joined by Dr. Eke, who is the former Vice President and Group Managing Director for Schlumberger Oilfield Services in West Africa, and he is also the Chief Executive Officer of the Spring Rock Group. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. And we also have Lucky Okudo, who is the Chief Executive Officer and founder for Women in Extractives Africa, that is WEX. Thank you for joining us. So there must be a reason we are seeing some very slim percentages of women in extractives. And before I can get to Dr. Eke, I would like to hear from Lucky. Why so? Why do we have these small percentages of women in extractives?
Firstly, thank you, Joy, for having me on the show. What we've realized and what we've been able to see, especially in the African context, why women are not being engaged and getting into these sectors is it starts with a sustainable approach. We have to start letting young girls know, especially in the Kenyan educational system, where students pick their courses, the ones they want to go further with at the end of Form 2. We need to ensure that we're letting girls know the opportunities in STEM courses. By STEM, obviously, I'm referring to the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. If we can start that at a younger age and be able to develop it further, we'd be seeing much more women getting into this very lucrative sector.
Right. There are always the stereotypes, of course, that maybe some of these fields are for the men. And so the ladies don't even pay attention to, say, engineering or architecture or technology or mathematics for that matter. But do you see this changing over time?
Absolutely, I do see it changing. We are breaking the stereotype, and that is part of what WEX Africa is doing. Yesterday, we held the Her World Energy Forum, which was highlighting women in these sectors and ensuring that it's very seldom do we see that women actually get the accolades when they are within these sectors to speak about what they're doing, and especially to look at it from a perspective of a woman. So the stereotype is absolutely being broken, and I always like to quote Sheryl Sandberg, as the theme yesterday was lean in, all and join in. And she says, walk in with your elbows out. We need to ensure if we want to break the ceiling, we have to get involved.
Right. And speaking of getting involved, Dr. Eke, you have had, or you actually have, a wealth of experience when it comes to dealing with extractives in mining and oil and such like fields. But is there a reason as to why the higher you go in ranks, the lesser women you will find in a boardroom, per se?
I think it's, thanks for that question. It's primarily because of what you see in any organization is a pyramid. So if you start at the base of the pyramid and you put in a certain number of people, as you go towards the top of the pyramid, you see them flow. Now, at the base of the pyramid, we have fewer women present. So it naturally occurs that as you filter up, then you have fewer women at the top. But there's quite a number of concrete things that can be done to bring women into the entire chain of the industry. And if I may share with you some of my thoughts, it's on two dimensions. First of all, corporations need to take certain actions, and the women themselves need to take some actions. Now, what should the corporation should do? What I advocate is that companies should state from the onset that they intend to populate at least 50% of the positions in the organization with women, and that is achievable. When you start with such a goal, then you have to work towards it. You need to go out there and recruit females. There are a lot of good female engineers and scientists. If you look at the enrollment statistics in most engineering and science institutions, it's quite favorable for the females. Now, when you bring in the females into the organization, you have to also empower them and challenge them by doing things like getting them to get involved in the building of processes and procedures that are used within the organization. You have to mentor and encourage them to grow. And I will also add that you need to do what I call non-obvious moves,
right,
which means identify the very good females earlier in their career and accelerate their career growth. As you do that, you'll actually pull females up the ladder, and then the younger ones that are coming behind will see role models whom they can aspire to. So that is what corporations can do.
Right.
And I'm not professing to you a theory. This is what we have done in Spring Rock. We set out when we started our business to say we will have women occupy 50% of the positions that are either office or shore-based, and in all cadres, including technical positions. Currently, 2 years into the game, we are at 40% plus, and we anticipate in another year or two we'll exceed 50%. So
All
it's
right.
doable.
So there's this perception that women who are in the sciences and extractives, when they take time off and come back to work, it's very hard for them to be reconsidered back into the workforce, say after maternity leave, and so it actually takes them longer to cope after that. But is this just a stereotype? Is it just a perception, or is it just the reality?
Well, there's a little bit of reality to that, but again, it goes back to what I said earlier on. If an organization takes a stand and say, this is what we're going to do, then you create the enable circumstances that enables that to happen. So there are times men take 1 year leave of absence and they come back to work.
Right.
Right? So what then is different when a woman takes a maternity leave for 6 or 9 months? Why should she not come back to work as long as she's still willing to continue with that? And also you see that there are times when the woman may come back to work. At the initial phase, you may have to have some flexibility in terms of what she's engaged in and working hours, and then you ease that out and go back to the normal, if you like, routine down the road.
Right.
So it's really a question of corporations taking a position and saying, we are going to make this happen, we will encourage it, we'll create an enabling environment, we'll encourage the females, and then this will happen.
Great. Lucky, we have the gender role in Kenya, partly implemented, partly not. Do you think this is even helping at all to encourage women to take up these positions, or you think it's just our fault that we're not going in for these fields or career opportunities?
Well, Joy, the way I look at it is 30% doesn't equate the number of women who actually are in this country. We are 50%. Yes, we're making strides to gender parity, but we definitely have a long way to go. So what I see is with having different women playing different roles, such as the women representative role that was created within the last election in 2012, that is empowering women. And we are now seeing women who are running for political seats that prior were not seen that they would be able to actively engage and get, such as governor and senator. And so the spur is there, and women are fighting to make sure they do put their best foot forward to fight gender parity.
All right. So finally, I would like to hear from you. What are the short-term solutions and long-term solutions to ensuring that we are seeing more and more women from younger ages getting the interest, picking it up in the fields of science, technology, engineering, and extractives? Doctor.
Well, in the short term, we need to ensure that, like Lucky mentioned earlier on, that we highlight at the very early stage and encourage girls to take up more studies in the sciences. That's one. Corporations have to take a position on what they have to do and how they're going to do it. We also need to encourage the females themselves to go out there and seek for these positions. There are unique strengths that women bring to a work organization. Women are known to be very good in multitasking. They are known to be very good in networking and problem solving. Now, men tend to approach things from what I call the brute force approach, but women do things in a more subtle manner and do it properly. So there are skills that women have they can bring to bear. So the women need to also go out there. And I think one other thing that needs to be done to hopefully wash away the stereotypes is to educate men who are business leaders on the value and the capability that females bring to the organization. There are several studies that have been put up by very reputable organizations like the Harvard Business Review, demonstrating the practical impact the number of females in a team brings in terms of performance and results. So I don't see this personally as an empowerment thing. I see it more as harnessing the good talents that we have amongst the female folks And the world over, there are more than 50% females. So you have a pool where you can get over half of your employees.
Right.
We just have to encourage male business leaders and also females. And we work towards breaking that stereotype.
Right.
And over time, I do not see why women should not occupy more than 50% of the positions.
Which contributes to sustainable development as well.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for joining us in this edition of Business Today. Dr. Eke, who is the former Vice President and Group MD for Schlumberger Oilfield Services in West Africa and the CEO of the Spring Rock Group. We also were speaking to Lucky Okudo, who is the CEO and founder of Women in Extractives Africa, WICS. Thank you both for joining us. We'll now take a short break, and remember, you can take part in our Twitter poll question: what should be done to encourage women to take up jobs and careers in engineering, architecture, and extractive?